Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me in another of my wonderful interviews. Today I have a revisiting guest. Is that what it? That's not the right word, is it? A returning guest, I think is the right way of putting it. He is the one and only Gary Fraughen. Hello, Gary.
Hi, mate. How are you?
I am very well. It's lovely to see you and thank you for coming back to the studio. The audience out there may remember that you have been writing a number of books.
Yep.
And we've highlighted them all so far on the show, and it seemed absolutely appropriate to say, come back when you've got the third, which I know you said to me was the most important one.
It's the most important one. There's a book to follow, which I'm halfway through, which is about the Jesuits, who are the controllers, if you like. But there's a lot of work in that one with royal families, the Committee of 300, and so there's an awful lot to go into that one, but this one will explain where we've got to, how we've got here, and I go back a long way.
And I'll show it so that the audience can see it. It is the New World Order, past and present, and the Adepts.
And the Adepts are those that are like the Manhattan Project, the controlled ones that are doing all this bidding. But I've taken this book. I'm ever so pleased to have got it out, because there must be 16, 17 years worth of data that I've collected in there, and I'm so pleased to have finally got the thing completed, because I've read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books which I've quoted in there.
Right.
So at least 150 I threw to one side because I didn't feel they were worthy, if you like. So it's. But I reference the books. I reference the people that printed them. So if people are really into this subject, it's a whole plethora of discussion that they can embark on themselves. But I've done the heavy lifting, so if you wanted it all in one place, there it is.
And I know, because you were telling me before we started recording, that this, not like so many of the books which are sort of revealing things, these are in the bookshops.
These are in the bookshops.
Which is, I think that's really nice to think about, that you're sort of telling the truth that normal publishers wouldn't want to be out.
Well, no, Waterston's have put them in the fact section, not fiction. so
oh, I love that.
And originally the book was banned in America, and but I managed to. I basically said, "Look, I'm going to take you guys to court, and if you don't, allow me to sell into America."
Wow.
Ireland, I'm not getting books into Ireland. Only about 20% are getting into Ireland, which is really strange.
Oh, right.
Because I'm entitled to an English passport, an Irish passport, and a Portuguese passport, but they're not getting into Ireland. So, or the vast majority are not getting into Ireland.
We'll have to go on a boat with a big bag.
I've sent a few letters. It's quite interesting. But yeah, the fight goes on. And what an exciting time to be alive, right?
Absolutely. Well, and you say that every time.
Yeah, it is.
And that's a genuine thought, because I know I get emails from people who are always worried and nervous about everything, and the more they read on these sort of subjects, the more nervous they get.
No, it's about knowing what they're doing. Then
Right.
then it's like, okay, I can see what they're up to. I can see what they're all about.
But people want to stop it, don't they?
Well, we have to. I mean, I had my embarkation into this reality in 2001, so I've gone through the depression, the fear, all the stuff that people have to go through.
Yes.
But when you get out the other end, the journey is just as important as the destination.
Yes.
Because if you haven't suffered hardship in the journey, then the destination isn't going to be as euphoric.
No, absolutely.
So you have to suffer.
Yes.
So, and I've done the suffering. So I'm kind of like, yeah, let's get it on, because more and more and more of us, in the millions, are coming together.
And that is, I mean, I see that on all the videos and the various groups that people post things. And not that I'm in all these groups, but you can see the amount of people who are absolutely fascinated in talking about it.
There's three types of existence in the animal kingdom. I'd argue in humanity. You've got commensalism. Commensalism is when a fish lives on a reef. The reef doesn't know the fish is there. The fish knows the reef's there, but there's no harm going on.
Right.
And then you've got mutualism. Mutualism is to the benefit of both. Like if you take a certain fish that use an enema to exist in, the fish cleans the enema, and the
Right,
enema
sort
protects
of like the
the fish.
parasite type thing on.
No, well, they both benefit.
They
both benefit from
yeah.
the existence, and the latter is the parasitic.
Right.
So we know who these parasites are now.
Yes.
And
no, I suppose when I was thinking of that, it's like the fly that's eating something on the back of, or the bird that's eating the insects on the back of the hippopotamus.
Yeah.
Is the middle one.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas the flea on the back that's doing no good is the parasite.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Phew.
So yeah, it's a great, because we know who the parasites are.
Yes.
You know, and it all goes back to words, obviously. I mean, poly is Latin for many, and a tick is something that feeds off you. So
yeah,
many ticks.
Many
is
ticks.
what politics really is.
And the parasites, they must know we know what the game is now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you suppose that makes them think at the moment? Are they panicking?
I think a lot of them thought they would have a seat on the vessel, but they're realising they haven't.
Is the vessel going down?
The vessel's going down, but we've got the lifeboats.
Right.
So, and you don't let a parasite into your lifeboat, do you?
No.
Well, there you go.
Not when you know who they are.
They made the rules.
Yes,
They made the rules.
So, well, we're going to be talking a little bit about this book. And, I mean, you've got here a hugely detailed timeline, which, I mean, and we were talking about just one bit in 1923 when a lot of things were prophesied 101 years ago.
Well, that's in the conclusion, so we'll come to that.
Yeah,
but I mean,
what I was sort of going to say is that these one-line bits, they could be a book in themselves.
well, yeah, they are. But what I've done is I've done all the work, and I go through year by year by year by year, and when you start to get through the first 3 pages, then you start to think, how did we miss this?
Yes.
I mean, people have been warning about this for hundreds of years. And yeah.
And just on that then, why do you suppose people have missed all this?
Well, the newspapers were very rare. People originally couldn't read very well. You know,
Yeah.
Sister K, the Act was written in French. So the man on the street couldn't even read English, you know.
Yeah.
So it's been going on a long time.
And we relied on people to interpret stuff,
Yeah.
and they may not have been.
Yeah, and the information
true.
was all controlled because the king wanted information from the north, the east, the west, and the south. That's the word for news. That's where it comes from.
Oh, north, east,
So
west, and
it's
south.
all it's all being controlled. But it's all coming out. You know,
Yes.
people like me, and thanks to people like you, we can just keep doing the heavy lifting. More and more of us are sort of coming together.
Absolutely. Well, and just on that, if you're watching this and you're in the Derbyshire area and you happen to be at the Ridding Centre in, I forget the name of the little town, you're there this weekend on the Saturday,
Yeah.
and so am I. As you say, people are coming together and they're very keen to listen to people like you who've been doing this.
Yeah, but it's about you know,
Sharing
who
the
wants to
knowledge.
listen to me, this idiot here? But I like talking to people because they always reveal things to me as well.
Yes.
So it's a two-way thing, isn't it?
No,
It's-
I agree. But if you've done the research, people love to hear, because people are coming from it from all different directions, and it's lovely to hear somebody else's version.
well, different people's take on things is just. I mean, even some of the literature books I've referenced in here about the New World Order. 1776 was an interesting year because that is when Adam Weishaupt set up the Illuminati in Ingolstadt in Bavaria. But when you look at and they became the Illuminati, and if you read War and Peace by Tolstoy, the best of years, the worst of years,
Oh,
you know.
yes.
But the book is about the protagonist in the book was trying to set up a branch of the Illuminati in Russia.
Was he really?
That's what's the book about. So unless you do your book reading,
Yes.
you're not going to read. And Mary Shelley, Frankenstein.
Yes.
Now, Frankenstein is the name of the creator of the monster.
Yes.
But people always say Frankenstein, think of the
monster itself,
It's
yes.
not.
No.
So Baron von Frankenstein in the book, in the fiction, basically he was going to go to Vienna to learn surgery, and his mother died and left him a castle. So then he started doing the experiments himself within the castle to create a thing that's against mankind and against God's creation. Yeah. But guess where the castle was? It was in Ingolstadt, in Bavaria.
Right.
So then I did some research on her, and it turns out her father was a Freemason, but I believe he joined the Illuminati, and
Gosh.
she didn't agree with it, so she put it into a book.
Right.
But she was warning humanity, something is being created.
And she was, I mean, she was 19, wasn't she?
She
when
was 20.
Wrote, 20.
20 when she wrote the
Yeah,
book.
I mean, what an insightful woman at that age.
Yeah, but people used to talk back then, didn't they?
Yes, that's very true. Yes, of course. And we are talking now, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get into the book then. You've got a copy there with a load of notes.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
slightly concerned now.
I just sort of went through and thought, how can we discuss where we're at? So,
Yes. Where would you like to take us?
well, I'll start with this one. We live in a time when government is a facade, hiding corruption, blackmail, forgery, child abuse, drug abuse, prostitution, sabotage, betrayal, callousness are things present in politics today. Being on the front line, fighting against the word, it's been heaped high upon us. We've been called variant factory and idiots by the killer of millions, Tony Blair, also known as Charles Lyndon.
Yes.
That's one worth looking up. Bow Street Magistrates.
Oh yes, I remember he was picked up.
Other world leaders know what they've done. Doctors know what they've done. Medics know what they've done. The pharmaceutical knows what it's done. And in my view, the Creator is now watching. So I while it's very, very negative, the book, I always try and leave people with an up.
Yes,
because it to think doom and gloom all the time is just it's not.
Well, this is, I mean, and you reflect that in your personality, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it was my wife's birthday yesterday, and so we have amazing discussions. And my wife said, "You didn't buy me any flowers this year," and I said, "Hang on a minute. When I've never been bought flowers by anyone.
Yes.
No one's ever bought me flowers." My wife looked at me sort of out of her corner of her eye and she said, "Oh, you'll get flowers at your funeral." And I just thought, what a comeback! What a fantastic comeback! So they're the things that keep me going. They're the things that make me laugh when I go to bed at night.
Yes.
Like
and
that.
you need that when you go to bed.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to bed on a negative, do you?
So when you work through some of this stuff that I've written about, so I go through the Masons, Glorious Revolution, the French Revolution. I go through the facts that wars are not about fighting over resource; they're all about banking and money. So I break everything down.
Yes.
And I mean, Hitler went to war purely because he'd created a bond to lend money from the German people, and it was a 5-year bond, and they were coming up for a renewal, and he didn't have the money. So all the American companies were in Germany at the time, and they started pulling out, and the bankers started to stop lending him. He needed cash. What best way to create cash is to invade a country and use its resource. So I break all that down, and that's the same with the Vietnam War, the 1776 with the American Revolution. Nothing to do with slavery. Nothing to do with slavery. Everything to do with banking. Because in America, basically how it was operating was the mid-states, before it became the United States of America, it was the United States before it became a corporation.
Yes.
They were lending money from the king, and he wanted his money back. And they said to the South, who were the bread basket of America, "You'll have to help us pay this debt." And they went, "Well, we're not helping you pay the debt." And then the war broke out.
Right.
Nothing to do with slavery.
And isn't that an interesting point, that is always the way that we're told it's one thing, but actually it's somewhere else. The main point.
It's behind you.
Yes, it's behind you. They told us in pantomime, ladies and gentlemen.
They told us as children.
Yes.
You're looking the wrong way.
Yeah. And that is, you can see that with everything that's going on at the moment, with all the different factions and things that are being thrust out on the mainstream media.
It's all planned. It's all planned. They've been working towards this for hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yes.
But the things are falling apart for them now because it's just happening too quickly. Things used to happen every 6 months in the God knows how many years I've been awake, and then it'd be every kind of 4 months, and then of recent years, in the last 4,
yes,
it's gone from like a month to weeks or 4 weeks to weeks, and now it's days.
Right. So did that mean? I mean, are they permanently meeting these people who are planning all this stuff and going, right? Okay, change that. Do this. No. Hang on. Change that. Do this.
Yeah.
Because it does feel like that's what's happening.
But there's always a reason behind what they're doing. We just don't realise it until later on. That's why they did it.
Right.
So that's why they're at the moment killing pensioners, and they are killing pensioners.
Yes,
and we're paying tax to drop bombs on innocent people, because that's what they're doing.
Yes.
But we don't realise that, or we didn't realise that, but we're realising now.
Yes, and again, I mean, if you have a government that immediately, as it seems this one has torn up its manifesto, which they all kind of do, but this one seemed to do it day 2 that they were in power.
Well, like I said to you, it's just a pledge. On the last one,
Yes.
It's a pledge. It's not a promise. It's not a promise. It's they can break the rules because they haven't promised.
Yeah.
So they just get away with it.
Yeah, they do.
In the House of Frauds.
In the House of Frauds, absolutely. So where should we go next in your amazing work?
Well, I mean, it depends upon exactly what year you want to go to. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just every paragraph that you flick through. I mean, you have a flick through and see what.
Okay, yes, here we go. Interactive. This is. So you talked about Madonna's song.
Yeah,
that was an interesting thing just before we started recording, and actually that's not that I'm a fan of Madonna, so I'm not really into pop music at all, which is quite interesting now when I look back, because I've not been influenced by the music of these people.
Well, this
I just before you say that, somebody who has worked very tinily in television and these sort of things in the long distance past with my kids' TV series, I know that anything that goes out, you have board meetings and you have people talking about what we're trying to achieve and all of this, but when it's things like pop songs, you don't think that. You think the artist has been inspired by words.
They're all controlled. I mean, you've got to look at Mark Devlin's work. I mean, he does wonderful things about music. But, I mean, going through all the years, and then you get to 2017, just before happened, her lyrics on Mambo Huncho were, not everyone is coming to the future, not everyone is learning from the past, not everyone can come into the future, not everyone is here, is going to last. 2017.
Yes.
So,
how did she know?
Oh,
how did she guess?
Oh,
I mean, you know,
very clever woman. Very clever woman.
Yes, of course. With her cones on her breasts.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Well.
And I mean, on that note, everything's satanic at the moment. You know, all these things, and kids for some reason seem to think this is quite groovy.
Well, the Day of the Dead is an interesting one because that's a celebrated thing, isn't it? And I'm Mr. Unceremonies. I don't like anything. I don't like Christmas because of the Christmas trees, what they represent. Christmas tree really is from when the 11th Legion of Rome left didn't use the Janus Gate, which is the gate they used to use. They all went missing. It turns out they were beaten by the Germanians, and the Germans cut their heads off with their helmets on and hung them from trees in Germany.
Oh my God.
So the baubles on a Christmas tree is really what that represents. So when Albert married Victoria, he brought this ideology into Buckingham Palace, and then everyone in England wanted one.
You must be a difficult person to go out to dinner with.
Oh, I'm not.
Because if anyone sort of says, "Oh, Christmas is coming," you know, and suddenly it's like, "Oh no."
Yeah. Oh no.
You don't know.
Oh no. Oh no.
Because this is the living proof of it, because it's all here.
Well, I'm invested in this to the point that I'm not going to stop. I don't care what. I've had some really horrific things happen to me. I've ended up in hospital. Things have happened.
Yes.
But I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop because it's the little ones we've got to pave the way. You know,
yes.
A beaten path is for beaten men. Beat your own path.
Beat your own path. No, absolutely. Let's see if we can find another stunning something for you to think about, ladies and gentlemen, as you watch here. Let's pick I'm going to pick the year of my birth and see what happened then, because that might be. I won't mention the year of my birth. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, but you can work it out. What have we got? Oh, here we go. Oh, that's charming, that is. Value-added tax is first introduced as a notion in France. This later becomes a model for those countries entering the common market. Of the year, I just say, I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, see, I go absolutely everywhere with the book. It's kind of like when these things start dropping in, then you can say, oh, that's where that come from, and that's where that is, and that's where. But the year's there, so you can see this thing rolling out.
Yes,
you can see how this control thing.
But now it's interesting that because somebody else has said to me that the VAT stands for the Vatican.
I've researched that. I've got 2 points of reference, but like I've said to you before, unless I've got at least 4 to 6,
right,
I don't put it in, because then it could be hearsay. You know, it could be just it kind of like would pollute a book that I'm trying to.
No, I understand.
These are in the British Library now, and they've got an ISBN number, and when I'm gone, these things are going to be there.
That's your legacy.
Well, again, it's about the little ones. I don't care about me. I've got no children.
No, I don't mean it like that. But if it's a statement of truth as much as you can research, then you've put your reputation and everything on that, and it's in the library.
Well, yeah. My wife said, "Are you sure you want to put your name on the book?" And I said, "Well, of course I do. I'll stand in my truth.
Yes.
And I'm not going to have a fictitious name.
No.
Why would I?
Well, that would undermine the whole book, really, in a way, because then it's like, well, who says that?
Yeah, it's not that person.
Yes.
Yeah, didn't exist.
Didn't exist. Yes, that's right, and that would be true. So, but going back to the VAT, then, if 1963, thank you very much, was when it was first introduced and as a thing to go into the common market, and we've now allegedly come out of the EU. Why are we still paying VAT?
We haven't come out of the EU. We haven't come out of the EU. They're still dictating the rules.
Right.
We just think we've come out of the EU,
yes.
And everyone's cheering about Brexit. It didn't happen.
So, and is that why VAT is still on there?
Well, yeah, I mean, we could wipe out national debt tomorrow, and again, I mentioned it in here with the Bradbury pound.
Right.
We could wipe out national debt in 9 days, and there wouldn't be a £40 billion black hole.
Nobody wants to do that. Well, nobody in power wants to do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all controlled. Opposition is controlled. It's all controlled.
Yes.
They know. They
Yes.
know. Anyone that works for the Bank of England or fiscal studies within Parliament, and again, we've mentioned that word before.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just part of the plan, but we're seeing it now.
Yes, absolutely. Well, that was interesting. So, if anyone knows if it is to do with the Vatican, then give us some information. But as you say, you haven't overly found it out. Let's have another sort of look on here and see what you make of this. So 1973 is a year, 10 years after my year of birth, and again, I had nothing to do with it. It's only a 10-year-old boy, please. You've got a number of things that are in here. So 10 years later, here it is. So on the 1st of April, and was that the April Fool's Day? Was that? It says the UK's 10% VAT. What are we now? 20% in, what is that, 70, 80, 90, 50 years. I should be able to have done that in my head. 50 years, it's doubled. It was introduced by the Finance Act and comes into effect. Happy April Fool's Day, you say. It replaced purchase tax. I don't, well now, because I was 10, so I don't remember. What was purchase tax?
Purchase tax was you had to pay on everything that you bought something. So they'd have a luxury purchase tax and a purchase tax. Luxury purchase tax were things that were regarded as not necessary, but like very expensive.
And is VAT on books?
No.
It isn't on books.
They're thinking about it. They're thinking about it. I mean, it's horrific when I send a book abroad, some of the costs that people have to pay, because I can't afford to pay the postage and print the books,
of course.
and do everything that I'm doing. But I find it horrific that people have to pay this money. If they added VAT on top, I mean, that would just...
Absolutely. And I can't remember now whether sanitary towels are, because I think there was a bit of a hoo-ha about that. I don't think it did pass or
no. But again, that's a necessity. So they've got us where they want us at the moment.
Yes. And 20%, for goodness sake, you know.
Yeah,
And
but I go into things like the VAT, I go into tax, I go into money, the Stamp Act, the bills of exchange. I go into all of it. I mean, again, the prohibition in America had nothing to do with the sober cause, as they called it, to stop people drinking alcohol.
Right.
What was happening is Henry Ford was creating engines that would run on ethanol. So people were making their own fuel. Standard Oil couldn't have that.
Right.
So they basically banned alcohol, and then all the engine manufacturers started creating engines that needed a heavier fuel to run to add lead. So the old vehicles could run on ethanol,
Yes.
but by the 5 years or whatever it was over, they were rolling out engines that needed lead, and you couldn't put lead into ethanol.
Right.
So then they were like, "Oh, off you go, start drinking again."
So once, yes, and then people could, and of course, again, it was the complete distraction,
Complete,
and all for your benefit,
yeah.
ladies and gentlemen,
Yeah.
all for your benefit. And isn't it? It's true. We had electric vehicles back in the 1900s, which didn't need the same sort of weight of batteries and children going down mines.
Yeah. Well, Nissan have done an interesting one at the moment. They've created a water engine, haven't they?
Have they?
Yeah. Yeah, they're rolling it out. So that's going to change everything.
Wow.
So-
and what? No one's been murdered as a result of
Well,
them?
it's a big corporation that's doing it. So
Right.
I found that really interesting, that what is going on there. Water engines. I mean,
So does that mean that suddenly water would be very expensive?
could be. But then there's a lot of it. I mean, 73% of the planet is water.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
but it's not. It's salinated, isn't
Well,
it?
I was going to say, if you had to get the salt out of it, and you had to then
Quite
pay
easily
for
done.
electricity, but if you've got to pay for electricity to do that, and they rack the price up, and say, well, you don't have to have an electric car, you can now have a water car. Only if you want to buy water, you have to buy it from us, because the water that you could put in it would cost.
But if you get photovoltaic panels and batteries, you can create your own energy anyway.
well, yeah. So it'd be interesting to see where it goes.
It's a really interesting thing, and I'm quite confused about it.
Yeah.
Because the EV market, the electric vehicle market, would collapse.
Yes.
So would fuel-powered engines collapse.
Yes.
So I haven't figured that out yet.
Because presumably then, I mean, if you can do a car, you can have a generator and run a generator at home and effectively have free electricity. Which I can't see is in their interest.
Really
So-
quite strange.
That is a bit odd. Unless the whole thing purposely fails, so they ditch it.
Don't know. But it's like everything. We whenever these things come up, we've got to look very carefully, because it's always something else is going on.
Yes. I mean, it wouldn't have been allowed.
It wouldn't have been allowed.
Yeah.
So there's something going on there.
No, that's very interesting. There was something else I was going to say, but it's gone out of my mind. So, well, let's talk about. You, as you say, you've got all the stuff in here, and you like to leave it on a light note. So, I've been trying to talk about solutions on the show for a long time, and of course, every time you talk about solutions, people don't tune in. You know, few people tune in, fewer, I should say. If you go, oh my God, look what's happening now, the world and his brother tunes in. But what are the solutions that can actually fire people up and put an end to this for once and for all?
When you know what they're doing, that's half the battle. You know, because I've got in this section here, the Frankfurt School is a social engineering front, and that was in 1923. They had the following plan for society.
Yes.
The big society, not just Frankfurt society.
Sort of a global society.
And these are the things they said that we need to do. The creation of racism offences. Continual change to create confusion.
We're seeing that.
The teaching of sex to children.
And we're seeing that.
Huge immigration to destroy national identity. The promotion of excess drinking. Emptying of churches. Legal system with a bias against victims. Dependency on state benefits. Control of dumbing down on the media. Encourage the breakdown of the family unit. 1923.
101 years
We're
ago.
there.
Gosh.
We're there. But the solution's easy because I put a huge amount of solutions. Learn to listen, not to think. Get the Bradbury pound. Get rid of. We need nation state banks, not these pathetic things we have at the moment.
Yes.
So the solutions are here.
When you say learn to listen, not to think.
Learn to listen and think.
And
Sorry.
think.
Sorry.
I was going to say.
Yeah, don't think.
Yeah, no thinking.
No thinking out there.
You're not allowed to do any of that nonsense. Not for yourself, because we'll do the thinking for you.
Yeah.
That's and that's one. I mean,
We
that's
sit in a room conspiring.
exactly.
It's like the old movie with Peter Sellers. What was it? The black and white one. Doctor Strangelove.
Yes.
And two of the guys in this room of menace start having a punch up, and Peter Sellers stands up and he says, "Gentlemen, there's no fighting in here. It's a war room." Just think, oh, brilliant!
Absolutely, the nature of war. What was the second one on your list?
In terms of what?
On that one, on this one.
Oh, there's a huge list of them.
Yes, but you just said one which resonated with me, and I can't remember what it was. After the start listening and thinking.
I put a jubilee to get rid of all debts, mortgages, credit cards, and la.
But how do I mean? Okay, so I mean, they all make sense, but how do we do it individually? Because that's the thing. If the Bradbury pound, as Justin Walker has been on the show many times,
oh right,
sort of
okay,
said, yeah, we'd like to have that, and my argument to him was, but you need the government to instigate it. We can't, as individuals, go, oh, well, I've got the Bradbury pound, and actually it's the Vobes pound.
It's about numbers. If there's enough of us that are not paying tax,
right?
If there's enough of us saying no means no.
Yes.
Doesn't mean maybe. It means no.
Yes.
It's about numbers, and people are starting to get a little bit upset in the UK, as they are around the world. But people are starting to get upset, and I think these misleaders, because they're not leaders. And the controllers, I think they're in a bit of a panic.
I mean, Keir Starmer seems to be doing us a lot of favours in that, as much as he is upsetting so many people.
Well, it's all part of the plan, but the way they're going around it is they're being so open about it. Attacking pensioners is just disgraceful. I've got the tax man chasing me at the moment, and I had one of them ring me up, and I said, I'm getting out because you're taxing the old. I gave him a right old earful, and he just went quiet because they can't answer to that. Right. So I'm not spending. I'm not paying tax for you to bomb innocent people. That's not happening.
Yes.
Not on my watch. And I'll stand toe to toe with someone and go at it if necessary. Just walk away from them. And
I mean, this is a national conversation, really, isn't it? To say, look, and you don't have to know. I mean, this is the thing. You know the agenda, you know the people, you know the timeline. But people out there, not necessarily my viewers, but people, the general public, don't need to know all of the heavy stuff. But if they know it's just not right, that money is being sent to different places to bomb people, and that's the money that we give the government, that's not right, because we didn't ask that.
Then we didn't demand that.
We didn't demand it. We didn't ask our MP.
So we demand not to do that.
Yes. So that's what I mean. It could be a national conversation. The more people are sort of going, well, do you think that's right? Well, of course I don't think that's right. Well, that's what's going on. Well, in that case, I'm not going to pay it. It's very simple logic, because that's the truth, isn't it? And if the illusion that they've given us is that we're the public and they're our servants, well, I'm happy to work with that illusion and say, well, okay, let's take that as read.
They're not civil servants, they're uncivil servants. Or uncivil serpents. I mean, you can play with these words all you want. But just don't be in fear. Don't be, smell the flowers every day. Take the dog for a walk. Don't live in fear. This stuff is scary.
Yes.
But when you see it and it makes sense, then when you see it on the television, that I can see what they're up to.
Yes.
It's about knowing. It's about if you're going to play rugby and you don't know the rules, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
Learn the rules. You're not going to get hurt because you know what's coming.
Yes, and so don't. I mean, but it is a glib thing to say. Don't be in fear, because it is a very fearful thing. But as you said, you go through that fear. And you've got to go through it to appreciate what it is the other side.
Yeah, I mean, 2001's a long time since I've been in this game. So, you know, I've gone through the thinking I'm mad, depression, anger, all the things of grief that you suffer. I'm out the other end. I'm okay. I'm really good with it. Because I know what they're doing. I know what they're up to, and I just laugh.
Right. I mean, is that on the thought that, well, they're not going to win?
But they can't win. There's too many of us.
Right.
There's too many of us. We hold the power because we're the ones that are taxed. Without us, the lights will go off.
Right. But they seem to be doing a bloody good job with their medical interventions.
They're trying. They're trying.
Various things that are causing people to drop down dead or have serious problems.
Look, I think the whole thing that happened, I think it was both a spiritual and intellectual test. And a lot of us passed the test. Quite a few didn't. But a lot of us passed the test because we knew something was up.
Right.
I knew straight away when things started to happen. I thought, you clever bunch of... Yeah.
Yeah, bleep out that word as necessary.
And I ran to and fro in a state of panic. And I'm Mr. Chill. I'm Mr. kind of, I don't worry about anything. Nothing bothers me. Nothing bothers me. But that did. Because I could see what was going on, but I think it was a test, and those of us that withstood, and I've got a section in the preface about it, that no matter what, we stood firm and we said no, and relationships got destroyed, businesses collapsed, we still said no. Governments called us all sorts of names, we still said no, and to those people out there, I salute you.
What do you think then about we keep seeing the potential of another pandemic?
I don't think people are going to take up the...
Now, it's interesting because I don't, but I do talk to people and they go, I don't know, people may still just acquiesce. No, there's too many people who've been affected within their own family unit. Or people that... I mean, I'm as a chartered surveyor, I know about 15 surveyors who are no longer here who went with it. Right. And that's a big number. And these were clever people. So it's not to do with the level of... No. It's intellectual is very different to streetwise. Yeah. And even if you were intellectual, these people didn't do their investigating intellectually either. No. So I think it was a big test, and I think they're quite surprised the amount of people, because I went to the marches in London with a friend, and there was one point she sort of shook my arm and said, "Look down there. There were millions of people. Nothing on the news. Nothing to see here. Move along." And there was even one part where they parked a bus across the road, so everyone had to filter through this avenue, and they had like 6 cameras. So they do, and they went, well, who are these people? Yes. But millions of them. And that must have scared them. I think that must have really scared them. Because when you get that many people out on the street and nothing on the legacy media talks about it, and you've only got to see some of the drone footage from some of the big ones. I mean, I wasn't... I was aware things were bad at that point, but I wasn't in the scene, as it were. So I didn't even know that was going on. I wasn't watching television. I was so busy.
Well, it wasn't on television. So.
Well, no, but I wasn't watching YouTube for that kind of content because I was too busy doing my walks and all the stuff I did. Yeah, before I did all of this. So I never went on those marches and experienced that.
But when you had millions of people that knew,
yes,
that's a problem. That's a big problem.
And that is something that's worth remembering, that those people knew and that those people are there, because again, with YouTube and censorship, you don't see so much of that information.
Well, there were millions and millions that couldn't make it to Londinium. Right. Why would you have the effort and money to travel from Scotland down to this pathetic city that is the banking capital of the world, or the controlling capital of the world?
So each one of those people on the actual marches are represented tenfold by others who couldn't make
Yeah.
it, or had yet to wake up to it,
Yeah, who have now. That's a brilliant thing, right?
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying I'm okay with it. I'm good with it.
So you're going to give away some of these books?
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
Gary?
yeah. It's just garyfraughen.co.uk.
Brilliant.
I've done a deal where you can get all 3 books with a good discount. I'm leaving these everywhere as well at the moment. I'm on trains and I'm just leaving them everywhere, like I do with the other books. I
Yes.
just leave them places.
And they do. I think you said they travel around, and people get contacting
yeah.
you saying, "I found your book on a bus
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
you know, Beirut or
Yeah,
somewhere."
yeah. Quite incredible, really.
That is an amazing.
Little old me, little Mr. Nobody Builder here. Yeah. But we're at war, so at war you don't rest. You keep fighting.
Absolutely. So yeah, NWO in the subject line if you would like a copy to me, or of course go to Gary's website and you can get it there. And of course the other books, just to remind, because people may be watching this for the very first time and not know what the other books were, which I'm just thinking if I've got I should have prepared myself a little better here, because the books are everywhere.
Well, there's a cream book and there's a purple book. The cream one is about words. The purple one is about numbers. Why do people see 333 and why do people see 1111? All that sort of thing. And I go through Freemason numbers and the history with numbers and where they were created from. Book 1 is more about the person and titles and entitlements and all the things of maritime admiralty and those people that harm children. You know, I call them out. I go for them.
You do.
I wouldn't have it if something was going on in front of me that there's a window there.
Yeah. Wouldn't want to be in the same room if I was on that side. Fortunately, I'm not. One of the fascinating things I took away from your first book was when you referred to the flat Earth as a paper Earth.
That's right.
And all the names are on the paper and the.
Well, the church the Vatican needed us to be. They called it the four corner rule. So they needed us to be on paper to exist as the person. So they said all 4 corners of the earth.
Right. Yes.
So that's where the origin of flat Earth, from their point of view, came from. But it was really the person. But there is a problem with the Earth being round. There is calculations that I'm looking into at the moment. There is a big problem, and it's a squared equals b squared minus c squared over 2bc cosine a, and So I'm looking at that. So to the flat earthers out there, I'm on it. But I've got to do the numbers. I've got to make sure the numbers are right.
Right. Yeah.
So, but there is a problem.
Because your second book is about numbers.
It's about numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but the first book, when you mention the map, is the Mercator maps. So the maps that we look at are totally out of proportion in terms of their size and shape. So.
Well, I know somebody who is from South Africa, and she said that the maps of Africa are too small.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Africa is much bigger.
And same with Newfoundland and Norway. Norway is actually 4 times smaller than it should be. So yeah, but I mentioned all that in book 1.
Yes.
So that's interesting.
So I mean, really, you're at a point where people, if they haven't bought any of them, they could get the trilogy and
Because
work up.
and people have been so kind. You know, I do all this purely to try to have things of credit for when I'm not here. And the book to follow on from that one is the Jesuits, and I'm writing about that. And that one is, I'm really going for the Committee of 300, the royal families. I'm going for them. The church, I'm going for them.
Any idea when that will come out? This time next year?
I always say, it's 3 months, 6 months, but the books create themselves. I never write the conclusion until the book's done.
Right.
So I don't have a set intention with the work. I just put all the points of references in, and when I'm done, then I put the conclusion, and then it formulates the book as a thing of it. They create themselves.
You are a speaker as well. You go around the country.
I've picked up a thing from a very good guy called Ian R. Crane on the Alternative View. He was a lovely guy. We promised to keep that one going, so I'm doing that.
When's the next event? Because I did one
March.
in Milton Keynes.
March.
March.
So March, we're doing that one. in Wales, and yeah, I do the speaking tours. I don't want fees for my work. My books fund my petrol, and so it's not about money. It's just about having these books of reference in libraries. Because as I say, I'm probably going to write 10 or 11 or 12 or 13 or whatever.
There's that many subjects.
Well, there's so much to cover, isn't
yes,
there?
well, that's it.
So you need these specific area books so that certain people are into numbers, certain people are into words, certain people are into history. So you've got to visit those, you've got to try and give those people the knowledge that they're interested in. And often people send me emails and they tell me something else, like, oh, I could have put that into a book, whatever.
Yes, of course.
But that's the beautiful thing about communicating, right?
Yeah. That well, I get it all the time with the emails. On the wordplay, this is something that I find difficult to fully grasp, because you see all this wordplay, and I had an email from somebody, and every other word was like broken up and giving me almost the inner behind the scenes meaning of it. And then I just thought, well, English is one language. Okay, it's a global language. But does the same thing work in French and in Germany and in Spanish and in Portuguese and Italian?
Some of them, yeah. Some of them. So, but each nation state has a particular way of thinking anyway.
Right.
So the Germans think differently from us. And I was working on the Ducati factory once, years and years ago, as a surveyor. And the Italians were sitting one side of the table, the Brits were sitting on the other side of the table, and the Italians started to get really angry. And it turns out why they were getting angry is we weren't being animated enough. We were because
stiff upper lip and all that.
That's English, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they were getting passionate because they were like, these guys aren't invested. They're not invested like we are.
Right.
It wasn't. It was just a different way of looking at that.
Yeah.
I also did a job for Docomo, if you take British Telecom times that by 12, that's how big this company was. And
where are they?
They were in Japan.
Oh yes.
And I was sitting there in Japan, and the chairman fell asleep at the head of the table, and everyone put their pens down. So us Brits are sitting there looking at each other like, what? Okay. He had a power nap for 15 minutes, and then he woke up, and he's had a really interesting story because he was a failed kamikaze pilot.
Wow.
The day he was due to go, engines were on, and ceasefire was declared. So he felt that was a dishonour.
Yes.
And that's why he worked so hard during his lifetime.
Good heavens.
These stories are,
that is incredible.
I mean, the funniest one is like Witherspoon. I don't know if you know why Witherspoons. He's called Witherspoons.
No.
It's because the guy who set it up was told by his teacher he would never amount to anyone, and his name was Mr. Witherspoon. So he called his pub after the guy. He said you'd never achieve anything. I mean, that teacher must have thought, wow.
Yeah. Might have to revise that. How many teachers though have had to do that? And think, hang on a minute, that pupil, he wasn't going anywhere. And then, I'll eat my hat. Gary, it's been a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for coming back.
Thanks for having
me. And it's not just about flogging books, as you say. It's the information. We all know we're in this war.
It is war.
Some of it's a silent war. It's a misdirection war. It's in your face war. It's stopping you to think. It's sapping your energy. It's taking your spirit away. It's all those things.
Drop all that. Drop it all. Drop it. Smell the flowers.
Yes. Well, I mean, I did a video the other day because on Sunday I walked down to the town and I just saw people looking haggard, depressed. They were dressing very slovenly, as if nothing ever mattered anymore. And I could just see the spirit of them being zapped away. And I thought, but that's what they want.
Yeah.
And if you could do nothing else other than dress up a bit, smile, go, sod it. I'm not going to let you drag me down. This is my life. It might end tomorrow, but I'm going to enjoy the last 24 hours. Thanks.
On my wife's birthday, we went down to the sea and we both took our
shoes and socks off?
Yeah, just went out into just started kicking water at each other. We were soaked. We were soaked. Hey, who cares? People thought we were nuts, but hey,
That's it. That's what life is about.
Smell the flowers.
Well, there we are, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I'll be back with more monologues and more wonderful guests. But from Gary and I, thank you so much. Do check out the book, The New World Order, The Past and Present and the Adepts. And
be safe, everybody.
Be safe. Cheer up. And
Namaste.
what he said, as I always say. Until next time, let me find the off button. Take care, look after yourselves, and give yourself, when you look in the mirror, give yourself a big smile.
Yeah.